thing I know right now is that we're not being represented in Washington, D.C. We've all been suffering in recent years because of the corrupt federal government, hopelessly divided along party lines. It's brought us nothing but the threat of war without end, failed environmental and energy policies, irresponsible government spending, and a casino-style economy based on nothing more than more and more debt. Now it's time for that to change. Now every candidate who's running against an incumbent comes up here and promises that they're going to bring change, that they're going to halt corruption. The question is how do you, the voters, verify that? Now what we're doing with our campaign is a little bit different. Everything I say and do as a candidate now is recorded on video and made available online at jeffgeorgeforcongress.com. That way we can guarantee you the continuous access you need to make sure that you have the transparency, accountability, and that you need to take on big money corruption. Thank you.
Thank you. Bert Saunders.
Thank you very much. My name is Bert Saunders. I'm a member of the Florida Senate and have been serving this area for the last 10 years, and it's been the highest honor of my life to be able to serve the citizens of Southwest Florida. I'd like to continue that service as your next member of the United States House of Representatives. I'm a Republican. I've been a registered Republican for 26 years and a Republican office holder for 22 years. I'm running with no party affiliation, but I will caucus with the Republicans. This is a race between the incumbent, Connie Mack, and Bert Saunders. And I would urge my Democratic friends to cast their ballot for Bert Saunders, as well as my independent and Republican friends. Again, I decided to make this run because I'm angry and I'm saddened as to what is happening to this great nation. We need to change what's happening. We need to stop the partisan bickering that has crippled Congress. We need to get people in office that are willing to work with independents, Democrats, and Republicans to solve problems. I've been doing that for 22 years, and I need your help to continue that as your next congressman.
Thank you. Okay, Robert, you start first. How would you reform health care? Be explicit. Please don't suggest that the free market will take care of everything.
And it has been my experience of late that the free market has had a terrible greed and lust for money. And consequently, we cannot trust the free market without regulation to take care of important issues like health care. I propose an expansion of the Medicare system. Simply, every time a president is inaugurated, I think we should change the age of eligibility. For instance, in January 2009, we would lower the age of eligibility from 65 to 60 and raise the age of eligibility from 0 to 5. What happens then is 60-year-olds begin to go to the doctor. They're healthier when they get to be 65. Our health care costs are smaller at 65. The newborns, those that have good prenatal care and good well-baby care with all their immunizations, are better able to be educated. They're healthier, they're more vibrant, and better students when they reach school. So consequently, our education costs are less. By following this plan, by 2034, every American will be covered by the expanded Medicare system. Don't call it universal medicine. It's not. It's infrastructure, and everyone deserves it.
Thank you. Jeff?
I think it's time for us to really have representation in Washington that's willing to take on the drug companies and the insurance companies. The fact of the matter is the majority of physicians in this country want a single-payer national health care system. The majority of voters want the same thing. There is a plan out there now that's been up there in Washington for a few years. It's called HR 676. It's been out there for a while. Essentially, it's extending Medicare to everybody, but not in 30 years, not in 20 years, right away. And what we need right now is we need a truly independent voice in Washington that's willing to go up against the lobbies, that's willing to break the party orthodoxy of denying what everybody in this country wants. We need real, single-payer, universal health care. I'm not afraid to say it, and I'm not afraid to fight for it if I get elected in Washington.
Thank you. Bert?
Thank you very much. We have a crisis in healthcare in the state and in this country. Lee County is second only to Dade County in the rate of uninsurance for people in this community. Our hospitals are losing money, and many of our safety net hospitals will be closing very soon if we don't solve this crisis. About 62% of the medical bill is already being paid by some government, in some form by the government. So it's not a big stretch to start talking about the single-payer system. I would submit to you that there are free market solutions to our healthcare problems. There are models across the world in industrialized nations that have tackled the healthcare problems, and we can take a look at those models. We need to take a blank piece of paper and really rewrite how we deliver health care in this country. But we have to do it in a very deliberative manner, and we need to make sure that our physicians are independent, that we have a free market system, because quite frankly, that has led to the world's best health care here in the United States, and we need to maintain that.
Thank you. Jeff, you'll start with this question. What is the best policy towards the Middle East? What can be done to bring peace to those war-torn areas?
That's a big question. It's hard to answer in a minute. But essentially, we need to change the way that we're framing this problem. We see this now as a war on terror. And as long as we continue to try and fight this through primarily military means, we're not going to be successful. We need to address the economic, social, and diplomatic issues. We need to be willing to talk to everybody in the region. Negotiation is not the same thing as capitulation, and it's time for that attitude to change. We have to get everybody involved in the region in real comprehensive solutions. In the case of Iraq, it looks like the majority of our troops are going to be out by 2011. And in order to facilitate that and make sure that Iraq remains peaceful, we need to be talking to their neighbors. When we're talking about Afghanistan, we need to have a clear strategy of exactly what we want to accomplish there. And again, we need to be talking to everybody. If we're willing to put some of the violent warlords that are in power in Afghanistan now, we should be able to find factions within the Taliban that we can speak to as well.
Thank you. Bert?
Okay. Thank you very much. Clearly, we cannot continue to go it alone in this very difficult war against terrorism. We need to develop more international coalitions with the free world to make sure that when we are going after the terrorists, wherever they may hide, that we have an international coalition to help us with that. We need to use all types of sanctions that are available to us short of going to war. Once that trigger is pulled, once you start a war, you're subject to all kinds of unintended consequences. You're subject to all kinds of other forces that you have no control over. So I'm a firm believer in negotiation, I'm a firm believer in sanctions, and I'm a firm believer in international coalitions. I'm also a firm believer that we have to partner with our friends in Israel. They are on the ground, they know what's happening in the region, and we need to listen to them and continue to support them. But when force is necessary, I believe that we need to use force, but we need to be much more careful about it, we need to be much smarter about it, and we have to have international coalitions to go with us.
Thank you. Robert?
You know, there are some countries in the Middle East that are not very fond of the United States of America. And as I review in my mind those that are not, compared with those that are, I find that those countries that don't like us so much are less successful and less fortunate than we are. Those countries that like us have some sort of parity with our success in our education and our health care. So what I think is, as we open a dialogue with those countries in the Middle East who hate each other so much, we should support them in their infrastructure needs, education and health care. You know, children on a room will all play with each other. They're not going to ask questions about who's Israeli and who's from Jordan and who's from Saudi Arabia. They don't ask those questions, they just play. And if we can foster that playful mood for adults in that region by supporting them in preparing their children for life lessons, then I think we'll go a long way toward providing peace in the region.
Okay, thank you. Bert, we'll start with this question. The sitting congressman from the 14th Congressional District has a record of voting against the Children's Health Insurance Program on 2 separate occasions. How will you vote when this comes before the House in 2009?
I have been a strong supporter of our Children's Health Insurance Program at the state level, and have worked to expand that program to as many children in Florida as is humanly possible to do so. I think it's outrageous to vote against a children's health insurance program. We can certainly blame the adults, perhaps, if they don't have a good job, or if they don't have insurance, or if they're not doing the right thing by acquiring insurance, but we can't blame the children. They have no real say in this, they have no real options in this. And so I think that expanding children's health insurance at the federal level and also at the state level is something that I would support wholeheartedly. To say that it's too expensive, I think really misses the mark. It's too expensive to have kids become ill and wind up in the emergency room because they have no quality of care, they have no access to care. It's much more expensive to treat a kid in the emergency room than it is to provide some form of good quality health insurance so they get preventative care. So I can assure you that I would support the efforts to expand children's health insurance both in Florida and around the country.
Thank you. Robert?
Well, you've already heard me talk about my proposal to expand Medicare, and the first expansion includes children aged birth to 5. You know, I'm a member of Kiwanis, and I'm a very proud member of Kiwanis, and one of our major programs is called Young Children Priority 1, and it deals with the healthcare issues and education issues of children from conception to age 5. I believe that the United States would adopt that caring attitude, just like Kiwanis has, that we will better our children, make them more ready to learn when they go to school, make them more productive and contributing citizens of the United States. So I continue to maintain that an expansion of the Medicare program will work by expanding it incrementally. It gives us time to find out what it costs and adjust our revenues accordingly. This is a good plan, and I will represent you in Washington to sell this idea so that for the benefit of all Americans.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yes, there's no question that I would support the S-chip bill if it comes up again. But ultimately, we have to recognize that as vital as it is to take care of our children, this is really a stopgap measure. We are looking down the barrel of eventually running into a situation where every single dollar of the federal government will have to go to Medicare expenses unless we change the way that we're doing things. And the only way that we're going to change things is we have got to take on the insurance companies, we've got to take on the drug companies, and we have got to get rid of that unnecessary middleman that's taking up interest. We have got to get rid of the burden on our small businesses and on our big businesses as well of employer tax care. We've got to make sure that people who are working aren't going to be concerned about losing their job, aren't going to be concerned about portability, aren't going to be concerned about what's covered and what's not covered. And as long as we have a private insurance system the way that we have it now, that's going to continue. Now, there's no need to get rid of private doctors or private hospitals, but we do need real national single-payer health care now, not later.
Thank you. Okay, Robert, you'll start with this question. We have no more questions after this, so after this question, you'll start with your closing remarks. What is more important, economic bailout or ending the war in Iraq?
That seems to be the same answer, yes. The war in Iraq is a direct contributor to the economic woes we are suffering right now. Since 2004, the first time I ran for this office, I've been complaining about the deficit. It's too high. The United States has too much debt. The war in Iraq has contributed almost $1 trillion to the debt we have. If we had that $1 trillion back from this unnecessary war, we wouldn't be quite as bad off as we are now. Consequently, if we'll responsibly end the war by withdrawing our troops and sending our teachers and our doctors and our nurses to help those people recover, we will save all that money that we're spending now. That will work well towards bailing out our economy from the doldrums that it's currently in, and maybe even worse than doldrums. It may get worse than that.
Thank you, Jeff.
There's no question that the two are related in the long term. When we talk about ending the war in Iraq, we have to look at the larger military problem, which is the fact that nearly 2/3 of our federal budget right now is either spent on the military or on security. And this is what's got to change. It's not just a matter of pulling our troops out of Iraq. We've got to rethink our entire national budget priorities. We've got to rethink how valuable is it to actually have this huge conventional army in the 21st century. You know, when we talk about the situation with the bailout, I was opposed to the bailout package in all of its forms, and I continue to be opposed. And the reason for that is we have an unregulated mess that has got us into this situation. And right now, all we're doing is we're pouring more money into the possibility of creating more and more debt, and that's got to change. We've got to look at our fundamental monetary policies, and we've got to make sure that the people on Main Street are taken care of, not just the people on Wall Street.
Thank you, Bert.
Thank you. Clearly, we need to end the war in Iraq, but we need to do that in a very responsible way. We need to make sure that the Iraqi government is able to maintain security. We need to make sure that this does not become a new battleground in the war against terrorism. So that requires a strategic withdrawal of our troops when it's appropriate to do so, and I think the generals on the ground can tell us that. In reference to the bailout, it's absolutely critical that the government take strong steps to restore confidence in our economy. It's also critical that the government continue to take strong steps to provide liquidity in our banking industry so that small businesses can get funds for their inventory and for their payroll. That will help reduce the level of this recession, will help get the economy back on track again. Plus, I think that our investment, the taxpayers' investment in our economy, ultimately will pay off by shortening the recession, but also because the securities that are being acquired by the federal government will ultimately pay off. But we must go after fraud with a vengeance, and we also must provide reasonable re-regulation of the banking industry to make sure that this doesn't happen again.
Thank you. Before you start your closing statements, I would like to say Connie Mack was invited and did not respond. Bert Saunders.
I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for scheduling this very important debate. This has been a long campaign. I want to thank the candidates. I think it's been a very informative campaign. I think we've talked about an awful lot of issues, and I think the public has benefited from all of us participating in this. I have served this area for the last 10 years in the Florida Senate, and I want to continue working for my community. I'm part of this community. I love this community. My kids are growing up in this community, and I want to make it better. It's a great place to live, but it can be made better. We can improve our economy, we can improve the access to health care, we can solve the immigration problems, we can become energy independent, but I need the support and help of my friends, both Republicans and Democrats, to win this race and to bring back reasonable representation for the citizens of Southwest Florida. This is a race between Connie Mack and Bert Saunders. I'm urging all of my friends to go to the polls, to tell their friends, and get out and vote. We can bring this seat back home, and we can make a big difference in Washington. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Jeff George.
Again, I'd like to thank the League for hosting this, and I do agree with Senator Saunders. This has been a great debate process, and I've enjoyed being up here and talking with these two gentlemen. However, I have to respectfully disagree with Senator Saunders when he says that this is a race between Connie Mack and Bert Saunders. Don't believe it. This is a four-way race. That means that the winner of this race could possibly win with 25% of the votes plus one single vote. That's all it takes to win this race. Now, this attitude is exactly the problem that I want to combat in Washington. We are so divided along party lines that we need a truly independent voice in Washington that's going to represent us, not what his party says, or not, but based on what the issues are. And that's what I intend to bring to this. And the way that we're doing this is we're trying to get you involved in a way that's never been done before. But in order for that to happen, I need the support of all of you. So I'm asking you to elect Jeff George for Congress this year, because not only will I be your voice in Washington, but I'll be your eyes and ears as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Robert Neal.
Senator Saunders would have you believe it's a two-person race. That's not true. Senator Saunders, as quoted by the Naples Daily News, is saying, I am a Republican, I have Republican values, and if elected, I will caucus with the Republicans. And that's true. So if you re-elect Congressman Mack, or if you elect Senator Saunders to represent you, the pain will continue. The economic policies will not change. There'll be more foreclosures. The energy policies will not change. There'll be no workable energy policy. Things will continue to remain the same. The only person in this race that can offer you any change in Washington is Robert Neal, and I humbly ask for your vote on November 4th. But if you can't vote for a Democrat, if you just can't vote for a Democrat, then please do me one kind favor. Gentlemen, vote for Congressman Mack. Ladies, vote for Senator Saunders. My name is Robert Neal. I'm a candidate for the United States House of Representatives in Florida's 14th Congressional District. Please vote for me on November 4th.
Thank you all very much, and the League of Women Voters wishes you all the best of luck in the race.
Thank you.
The next group of candidates is for State House District 73, Stephen Gray Blanchett and Nick Thomas. Stephen Gray Blanchett.
My name is Stephen Gray Blanchett. It's actually Blanchett, but when you go to vote, just remember it is the only hyphenated name on the ballot this year. I've been a resident of Florida for 28 years. I have an advertising background. I was a small business owner. For the past 10 years, I've been very actively involved with many nonprofits. In 2000, I went to Kilimanjaro to raise money for the Children's Hospital here. Our goal was originally to raise $30,000. but out in the community and working hard to do that. We ended up raising, I believe, $420,000 for that hospital, and they're very much involved with different charities. And since that time, it's kind of changed my life. And I've been focusing on nonprofits and helping our community.
Thank you. Nick Thompson.
Thank you very much. And thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being here. Thank you for the Legal Women Voters for having this forum, and thank you for those who are at home watching on TV. My name is Nick Thompson. I'm the state representative for District 73. And I want to thank everybody from District 73 for electing me 2 years ago. You sent me to Tallahassee and asked me to achieve results for our district, and I have. I passed important laws that have statewide impact, but have a local purpose here as well. The Marijuana Grow House Act is a bill that I passed into law this year that cracks down on marijuana grow house operators and has mandatory prison time for those grow houses where children are present. I also passed the anti-bullying bill, along with teamwork with Debbie Johnston, schools, administrators, teachers, and other students. That bill protects students in our schools from being bullied, and it's something that has had not only just a statewide impact, but now a national impact. I just appeared on the Dr. Phil show last week, and will appear on October 28th as well. But Florida leads the way in protecting students in schools because of the Anti-Bullying Act, and I'm proud to have been a sponsor of that and get that passed. I've achieved results as your state representative, and thank you for electing me, and I look forward to being reelected.
Thank you. I was amiss by not stating that State House District 73 is the majority of Lee County. Okay, Stephen, you will start first. What are your views on the sale of Alligator Alley?
I am 100% opposed to the sale of Alligator Alley. I'm 100% back support Dave Ehrenberg and his views on that. The alley brings in about $17 million a year in profits, and there's no guarantee that money will go for local roads. I have a problem with that. If our state cannot manage its own road system, then there's a serious problem with our state leadership.
Thank you. Nick?
Thank you very much. The leasing of Alligator Alley is something that eventually, as a legislator, you've got to look at the terms of that lease. I'm opposed to leasing Alligator Alley. It's just for somebody else, a private company, to maintain and pay for that road. But if those terms of that lease are going to bring capital to Southwest Florida to help us do things like widen State Road 82, widen Pine Island Road, things that can help our district and my constituents here, then that's something that we've got to look at. So the terms of the lease are important. A lease in and of itself doesn't mean anything, but the terms of the lease or any contract are important, whether or not they're going to help the citizens of District 73. So I would look to those terms before I make a decision on whether or not it benefits the district or not.
Okay, thank you. Nick, you'll start with this question. Florida is ranked as the 4th lowest state in terms of overall taxation, yet we are one of the few in the nation that do not have tax LLCs or S corporations. Should we consider taxing LLCs and S corps?
I'm not in favor of raising any taxes, especially in this current climate. You know, if you tax any economic activity, you depress that economic activity. And right now, more than anything, Florida needs capital and economic activity in order for businesses to grow, people to have jobs, and also for government to operate. Government can raise taxes, but that doesn't necessarily mean they raise revenue. If you raise taxes on certain things like LLCs and S corporations, then maybe you have less of those, and you don't actually reap that revenue to help do the things that you want to do.
Thank you. Stephen?
I am also not in favor of raising taxes for that, and I'm also not in favor of raising any kind of taxes that's going to affect the pockets of any Floridian. I think what we need to look at is the tax exemptions, and I'm all for looking at other tax exemptions to bring revenue into the state that way, in that direction. Right now, Florida exempts more than it actually taxes, and I would like to see all members of the Florida's House and of the Senate review each one of the exemptions and vote on each one of those, and make that public. It should be done by a small committee. It should be done by the whole House and the whole Senate, and the views and the vote of each senator and each representative should be easily available to all residents of Florida.
Okay, thank you. Stephen, you'll start with this. What do you see as Florida's best hope as we seek alternative energy sources?
I think that we need to encourage companies to relocate here and to start up here when the economy starts turning around. We are the Sunshine State. We have plenty of sun for solar energy. We have the wind for wind turbines. We have plenty of water for water turbines and stuff. We have everything essential for these companies to start here. The one thing that we do not have is a first-class public school system. Once the economy does turn around and companies are looking to start to build here or relocate here or start up here, the one thing that they're going to look at is Florida going to be a good state for their company and for their employees? And with Florida, with our education system ranked 48th right now as far as ACT test results go, we need to improve our education system. So we're not going to draw businesses here until we have that, and we also work on better homeowners insurance, property insurance, and also our property taxes are way out of line. So we have to do other things before any environmental company or energy company is going to look to relocate here.
Okay, thank you, Nick.
I helped pass a bill this year that allows for net metering now. And so solar energy, I think, is one of the most immediate impacts we can have in terms of energy and being more energy independent. The net metering allows for people who have solar panels on the roofs or what have you, if they generate enough electricity to power their house and then above that, then they actually get money back from the power companies. So that's an important thing that we can do to help out our economy and help us be more energy independent. Long term, I think natural gas is an option that we have to look at, and nuclear power as well.
Okay, thank you. Nick, we'll start with this one. What is your position on the Florida buyout of U.S. Sugar?
I think the overall concept of creating the southern flowway out of Lake Okeechobee is a good concept, and I support that. There are many people in that line of that southern flowway, though, that weren't at the table for these negotiations. So I think that overall, conceptually, I'm in favor of buying out whatever we need to do to get that southern flowway so we don't have releases coming down Lake Okeechobee into the Caloosahatchee River and our estuaries. But we need to get everybody at the table who's affected by that southern flowway in order to create that contract and that buyout.
Okay, thank you, Stephen.
I'm also in favor of it for pretty much the same reason as my opponent, Nick. I do believe that the land that's there should be looked into as far as the development of that land should go into more environmental friendly businesses such as the citrus industry.
Okay, thank you. Stephen, we'll start with this question. Would you support a bill for hands-free cellular devices to be used while driving?
No. I have a speakerphone in my car, and like everybody else, actually the best time to reach me is if I am in the car, because I'm usually it's the freest time for me to be available, and so a lot of my conversations do take place in my car. But I do have a speaker system on my phone, and I believe if you want to be in the car, you should have a speakerphone in your car.
Thank you, Nick.
No, I don't support banning hands-free cellular use in the car. I think that there are many decisions that government makes that affect our lives, but you can't regulate everything from the government's point of view. People have individual responsibilities to be safe when they're driving, and certainly I think that this is something that is better left to the people rather than the government deciding it for.
Okay, thank you. This will be the last question. If you'll start. What would you bring to this position that would make you a better candidate?
Well, I have experience being elected over the past 2 years and have achieved results for our district. I went up there, it's the first time I've been elected in office, and I made the necessary connections to the people in the House and the Senate, and was able to get things done. And that's very important. Over the next couple of years, we're going to have some serious issues, and you've got to have a representative that listens to the community and takes issues that are derived from our community, like the Zahid Jones bill. That's a bill I will pass and get passed in the legislature. Like the Jeffrey Johnson Stand Up for All Students Act, the anti-bullying bill. That came from our community. Debbie Johnson's in Cape Coral. I was able to get that passed. And so you have to have representatives that are able to get things done. And I've proven I can do that. I've done that. And if I'm re-elected, I will continue to do that for this district.
Thank you, Stephen.
I think like Nick Thompson said, it's all about getting things done, and I commend him for the Jeffrey Johnson bill. It's an awesome bill. I'm so glad that you got that through. But I go to Tallahassee on a regular basis for the past 10 years. I was legislative chairperson for the American Advertising Federation. The last time I was up there for last session, I was not happy with the things that were getting done, because other than the budget being passed and a few other bills, there wasn't a lot being done in Tallahassee. Nothing was being done to help our economy. Nothing was being done to help homeowners insurance go down. And as your state representative, I will work to improve our economy. I will work to lower insurance. And if you visit my website, you'll find a little bit more detail, because we only have a minute to answer that. Your Voice for Change is my website, and there's more details on how I would change things.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll have the closing statements. Nick Thompson will start.
Well, thank you again for coming tonight, and thank you for having this panel. As I said, I've been able to accomplish things in the state legislature for my community and for the state as a whole, and I'm proud of that. I've had a lot of help, a lot of great support, and members from other districts have also been very helpful in doing that. It's important to be able to have someone that can make those connections and be able to get things through the House and the Senate. I'll give you an example. There was a bill, actually it was a Democrat-sponsored bill, and it dealt with children being left in vehicles for too long. That bill almost died on the House floor, but I worked across party lines and was able to get that bill passed. I've been able to do that. I've proven and earned respect of all my peers in the legislature on both sides of the aisle. And so I want to take that back to Tallahassee, continue doing the good things I've been doing, like repealing the recapture rule, which taxes your homes at a time when you can least afford higher taxes. That's where the property appraiser raises your assessment even though your property value decreased. Well, that was never voted on by a legislator or a senator, and that's something that's not right and needs to be changed. I will continue to accomplish things for District 73, and I hope when you go to vote, you'll pick Nick. Thank you.
Thank you. Stephen Gray Blanchett.
When I'm in Tallahassee, when I'm elected to go to Tallahassee, I'm going to be serving the people of Florida. I'm not going to be serving special interest groups. Unlike my opponent, all my fundraising was done on my own, done by friends, done by local businesses that contributed to that. If you look at where my opponent, where the majority of his money was raised, it was raised by special interest groups. I am for the people, I'm not for special interest, and I would appreciate your vote come November 4th, or go vote tomorrow because you can't vote early now. And I also would like to thank the League of Women Voters for putting this together, and also for putting together the voters guide that you put together back in August. If you go to their website, you will see where I stand on all the views, and you will also see that my opponent did not take the time to respond to that to let his views be known. And I would appreciate your vote. And thank you again, Stephen Gray Blanchett.
Thank you. The League of Women Voters both wish you the best of luck in your race.
Thank you.
Our next group will be District 1 Lee County Commissioners.
Let's go ahead and leave about maybe 3 or 4.
I'm thinking of a question right now. I'm thinking. Control spending, saving our
And also, the health issues are very interesting. Visit my website, www.districtjames.com, to learn more about these issues.
I don't think there's anything that annoys me more than the flag being left out in the rain, especially on government property. Probably sprinklers in the rain annoys me more than that.